Grandeur is totally without illusions, and because it is real, it is compellingly convincing. Yet the conviction of reality will not remain with you unless you do not allow the ego to attack it. The ego will make every effort to recover and mobilize its energies against your release. It will tell you that you are insane and argue that grandeur cannot be a real part of you because of the littleness in which it believes. Yet your grandeur is not delusional because you did not make it. You made grandiosity and are afraid of it because it is a form of attack. But your grandeur is of God, who created it out of His love. The ego will shift between littleness and grandiosity, and it does not much care which insane evaluation we choose. Either way, its mobilization of energies in response to our grandeur is attack. This is another important theme in our symphony, and it emphasizes the need for us to recognize the fear of accepting back into our split minds the true grandeur of ourself. We had banished its memory, hiding it beneath the ego's thoughts of littleness and grandiosity, opposite sides of the single coin of specialness. Such attack of ourselves and others serves the ego's purpose of negating the innocent self we share with all living things. The vision of shared interests that is the prerequisite for remembering the oneness of Christ that is beyond perception, being only of God and His love. From your grandeur you can only bless, because your grandeur is your abundance. By blessing, you hold it in your mind, protecting it from illusions and keeping yourself in the mind of God. Jesus refers to our vigilance for the ego thought system, which really means seeing how much we choose to identify with specialness, evaluating form over content, and demanding we are right in our perceptions. This is the stubbornness to which we all can relate, and our special relationships are differing forms of expressing the resistance to choosing the Holy Spirit, following His pathway of forgiveness, and disappearing into the heart of God. Excuse my voice, I'm sorry. We would feel there was nothing wrong with our disappearance as long as our self could continue to exist there. However, there is no differentiated self in heaven, for the living oneness of God's love is mutually exclusive of any separated identity. Remember always that you cannot be anywhere except in the mind of God. When you forget this, you will disappear and you will attack. Our hateful and despairing thoughts do not come from what the world has done to us, but only from the belief that we have done something to it. The projection of the son's wrong-minded decision to leave his home in God's mind. Since we have denied the reality of ourself, how could we not feel alone in the universe, blaming everyone and everything for the misery that is the inevitable result of our mind's decision to believe in delusions? The ego depends solely on your willingness to tolerate it. Willingness in A Course in Miracles is always a synonym for decision. Our willingness to tolerate the ego comes from our decision to make the ego real. This choice of the mind to believe in a separated self is the foundation of the ego's very existence, without which it would disappear into nothingness from which it came, since an illusion can have no substance. If you are willing to look upon your grandeur, you cannot despair, and therefore you cannot want the ego. Your grandeur is God's answer to the ego because it is true. Littleness and grandeur cannot coexist, nor is it possible for them to alternate. Littleness and grandeur are mutually exclusive evaluations. We are either part of God's grandeur or the ego's littleness. In our fear, we continually root our special identity in littleness, which sometimes masquerades as grandiosity. Since we are afraid of the grandeur inherent in A Course in Miracles, the ego attempts to join with it in specialness. Rather than bring the darkness of illusions to the truth of Jesus' message, we are guided by the ego to bring its truth to the illusion. As the major thrust of the Course is to teach us to forgive, the ego helps us by making the era of sin real, i.e., others have hurt us, and then forgiving it, the process known as forgiveness to destroy. While A Course in Miracles does not believe in sin, if it did, its sin would be making the error real. When we chose the ego over the Holy Spirit in the beginning, we made real the error of the tiny, mad idea of separation, leading to our seeing the projected world of separation as real too. The Holy Spirit's atonement principle is the gentle smile that looks at the tiny mad idea and sees beyond it because it is nothing. It does not make the error real and then try to solve it, but simply says, "What error? Nothing happened to change perfect oneness." Not one note in heaven's song was missed. To the ego, however, the error of separation is quite real, which then makes guilt real, setting the stage for its defense that establishes the seeming reality of the physical world, evil, sickness, and death. All this is made up, of course, but is still accepted by our insane minds as the reality that we chose over the grandeur of God and His Son. Since truth and illusion, grandeur and littleness cannot coexist, nor truly alternate in our minds, though we can dream they do, Jesus urges us not to fear the atonement, which alone can make us happy and bring us peace, but to choose it as our only truth. Yet, if truth is indivisible, your evaluation of yourself must be God's. You did not establish your value, and it needs no defense. Ask the Holy Spirit what it is, and He will tell you. But do not be afraid of His answer, because it comes from God. It is an exalted answer because of its source. But the source is true, and so is its answer. The purpose of A Course in Miracles can be said to reduce our fear of the truth, as we recognize that the ego's answer to the question, "What am I?" was not only false, but did not bring us happiness, the happiness it promised. Being against God's will, that alone is happiness. When we ask the Holy Spirit for help, therefore, His answer is always forgiveness, which we will examine presently after first looking at the ego's distorted version. This is based upon seeing that there is a problem in the world caused by something external, that in the goodness of our hearts we forgive. The aforementioned forgiveness to destroy. More specifically, the Course uses the term unhealed healer to describe one who makes the error of separation real and then attempts to heal it. However well-meaning the attempts might be. We will discuss this shortly when we look at the section called the Unhealed Healer. But first, consider a paragraph in the Holy Spirit's plan of forgiveness that introduces us to the ego's plan of forgiveness. And we will start that tomorrow. Thank you.